It's breakfast, Matho and Alo on Triple M, and catching up with me and Matthew Dickerson. And you had a big night on Friday night at the Rhinos. I hear you got dethroned from your crown from last year, Dicko.
It was actually quite a good night, and it was quite funny because I was talking to a few people and they said, "Wow, these rhinos seem to come around fairly often." Well, it actually only been 8 months since the last time we had the rhinos rather than 12 months, so that made a bit more sense. So I only held the throne of the Jean Amel Cerisia for 8 months, not 12 months, so I've been ripped off there.
But I heard you hit the dance floor pretty hard. I mean, we had some insiders there.
Dance floor pretty hard. Does that mean I fell over on the dance floor? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, we saw you fall over. That's what we meant.
I tell you what, the band was very good, though. I was very impressed with the band.
Yeah,
they sounded very impressive. Do I sound old if I say, gee, they were loud, though?
Yeah, definitely.
And Joanna Griggs was pretty impressive, the host there. She was very good.
Yeah.
And as you both know, the Rhinos night is a tough gig to MC because at the beginning of the night, everyone's all keen and they might be in for an award, and everyone in the room was a finalist on that night because they sold out all the tickets in the pre-sales rather than went to general sales. So everyone in the room was a finalist. So you're all excited, I might win an award. And as the night goes through and they announce some awards and some of those people realise they're not going to win an award, they get a bit more relaxed, maybe drink a few more little fizzy drinks, and then it gets to the point towards the end of the night where people are just chatting and having a good time. And so the poor old MC of the night has got to try and get the focus back on things like, the Gold Rhino announcement. So it's a pretty tough gig. There's a fair bit of noise in the room, but Joanna Griggs did a really good job of keeping people focused on the award winners.
Well, very, very, very exciting news that Rhinos went off with a bang again, and looking forward to next year. The obvious question most people are asking around the city at the moment, Dicko, all this rain has equaled all these monster potholes everywhere.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? So I've actually just been in the Hunter Valley, myself and 3 other councillors, and one of our directors have been over in the Hunter Valley for the annual Local Government New South Wales conference. And one of the good things about that is you've got 128 councils across the state. They're all members of that association. I think all councils are there. Maybe there were a couple that couldn't quite make it because they were flooded in. But you get to hear from the state government and you get to hear from other councils about what's happening. And obviously, councillors felt a little bit better about things because they realised it wasn't just us that we've got these problems with roads, we've got these problems with funding. But Sam Farraway, the Minister for Roads, came along, and usually you have a few ministers come along and talk about various things and make some announcements. But he came along and made an announcement of an extra $50 million for roads, and that was fantastic. Obviously, there was a big cheer that went around the room when that announcement went through. And then as we all sat back and thought about it, and that was specifically for regional councils, so 95 councils can apply for that. We've got 2 weeks to apply for it, so not long to apply for it. We don't actually know the exact criteria at this stage. That'll all come through in the next couple of days, so we'll get that application in. But then we started thinking about it. Well, 95 councils, that's only a little bit more than $500,000. That's great. Thank you very much. We don't want to sound ungrateful, but we've got, before these latest rain events, a $40 million backlog. We're spending $28 million already in our budget this year on the roads. So an extra $500,000 is great. We'll take the money. We'll do whatever we can with that. But, gee, we need a lot more. So it sounds pretty impressive, $50 million across those 95 councils. Don't know how that's going to be allocated. Don't know how much we'll get exactly. But as I said, if we got an even share of that, $500,000, that'll help us, definitely, but it's just so much more that's needed. That's the problem. And that's the problem for the state government because every council across the state was saying the same thing.
Yeah, I'd like to deep dive into that because that does sound like there's a lot more questions than we have, but we don't have that time. Dick, I did want to ask about, of course, it'll be more havoc for our roads, but the SES is saying more rain, we could flood quite easily. What's the current state with the council understanding about floods, and what's the plan for the future? The
biggest problem at the moment is the ground is so wet. The soil saturation levels are at near record levels, or probably are at record levels at the moment. So the SES are absolutely spot on. You get any more rain, it doesn't soak into the ground. It just starts coming down and running down the river, and obviously outside the river as the banks of the river break. The dam, the state government is always trying to get that dam level down to 100%. I know it sounds silly, but it can go up to 160%. And that's all about it's all about irrigation allocations, but also it's about flood mitigation. So they're trying to get it down. So even though the river is at high levels now, they still release parts to try and get it down there so they can handle more water that comes in so you don't get those high flood events if they can avoid it. So it's a tricky business trying to manage all of that. and then Mother Nature doesn't really understand the rules that are in place, and she plays her own game. So if we do get more rain events, yes, you will tend to get those more flooding events. But to give you an example, back in 2010, when we had those flood events, there was about a 2-week period that we had Ceresia Bridge closed, and that was absolute traffic mayhem for those 2 weeks. Now, in the last 2 weeks, we've had to close Ceresia twice, but we've managed to only close it for 1 day both times, or approximately 1 day both times. So that gives you an idea of better flood management and the fact that, yes, we are managing that water and that flow. And that's a combination with lots of agencies. That's with the state government, SES, Rural Fire Service helps out, the police help out, obviously council in there as well. So we've learned a lot over the years, and we'll keep learning as things happen. But it seems to be a little bit different every time those floodwaters occur. But brace yourselves, because this rain is going to continue on, apparently, if you believe the Bureau, until sometime in December.
Yeah. Well, interesting to see where the weather goes with that. Mayor Matthew Dickinson, thank you so much for your time this morning, and hopefully not too much rain in the next couple of weeks.
And let me just say briefly there, great to see 2 announcers back on air with Triple M. Well done. Good to see you back, Matho.
I'm clapping myself.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that.
No worries.